Hi, my friend. I often hear from my clients and authors that they think they can't really edit. They're good at writing maybe, but they're not good at editing. And what I always say is that those two things are actually very similar skills, but you do need to learn some specific things if you want to edit your work well. That's what this video is about. My 5 steps to building your editing skills so that you can edit your work and you can help others if you'd like to down the road. These are the basics that you learn when you get into the editing business, which I have been in for over 20 years. I started my career in New York City working for some of the biggest publishers you've heard of: HarperCollins, Penguin, Hyperion. I then rerouted my career and went to Sounds True, where I could work on books that really touched my heart as a reader of transformational nonfiction. But I have edited every type of book, from novel to business book to cookbook, everything. And I will tell you, these editing skills have helped me all along the way. So again, my name is Kelly Notaris. I'm the founder of KN Literary Arts. We are a book studio where we help people write, edit, publish, and market their books so that their wisdom can get onto the page and into the world. And we'd love to help you too. I am going to walk you through in this video my 5 steps to becoming a better editor. And then I'm going to give you a bonus that is going to be very, very useful. If you'd like to jump there already, you can hop down to the description. The link is there so you can download my bonus. It will help you starting today to become a better editor. Okay, but first I want to walk you through my 5 steps. What are the things that you have to learn on your journey to building your editing skills? So the first one is, I want you to understand what an editor does. So the term editor is used loosely, and there's a lot of different people who have a role that's called editor. So I want to be clear that an editor does a lot of different things. Over the course of a book's journey, an editor can help you at every single stage of the game. Editors at the traditional publishing houses acquire the books for the company. They are the first line of defense. They read every proposal. They read every novel. They read the children's books. They decide which of these books is going to clear the bar that they need it to clear in order to believe the sales will be great. So editors understand sales. They understand what's working in the marketplace right now, and it is their job to make sure they're acquiring books that work in the marketplace, okay? Then they help hone the concept of the book. Sometimes they will ask you to completely rewrite your book proposal, completely rewrite the book. They believe in you as an author, but the concept itself needs help. So editors know how to write an amazing hook that's going to sell, that's going to magnetize readers, that's really going to hit its audience. So that's another thing that editors do before we ever even pick up a pen, right? Then editors are cheerleaders. We help you get through the process of writing your book. We believe in you. We've seen so many books go all the way through. We understand the roadblocks that come in, and we can tell you how to get through them. So I always say that we are part editor, part therapist, and also part cheerleader. Okay, so an editor does all of that before they start editing. And then they do actually drop in with your book and help you make it the best it can be. Which leads me to the second step in developing your editing skills, is to understand the difference between what I call developmental or structural editing and technical editing. So first comes developmental or structural editing, and there are 2 rounds. The first one is called a developmental edit or a structural edit. That's where we're looking at the big picture. Is this book working? Does every chapter have the content it needs to have in it? Does the voice resonate? Does it feel good to read? Are you using terms correctly throughout the book that we could globally go through and change if not? We're going to make sure that every chapter is roughly symmetrical, similar length, that any turning points in your novel are really clearly placed and at the right place and at the right time, and that your characters are developing to the point where as a reader, we love them and care about them and want to keep reading. These are all big global edits that we're going to offer you in the form of an editorial letter. So when you are doing your own developmental edit, which I highly recommend, you need to look for these same things. Okay, second round of content editing. That first section of the editing is what we call a line edit. This is where we're looking line by line for clarity and flow. We will also fix grammar if we see it, but it's definitely not our job to be the last person to read for grammar. That comes in the technical editing rounds. In this round, we're looking at the art. We're making sure every sentence flows, that as a reader, I never get stopped as I read. I'm really in the book so much so that I forget I'm reading. I actually feel like I'm having a different experience. So that's a line by line thing. We might help you rewrite some sentences. We might actually remove things. That's one thing that people don't know an editor does a lot of. We don't necessarily add so much as we take away. Anything that's distracting from the content, from the ideas, we want out of there. We want it to be very smooth, very flowing, very clear for the reader. Okay, that is the content editing, developmental editing side. Then we move into technical editing. The first stage is a copy edit. So important to understand what a copy edit is. Go ahead and Google that term if you don't know. It is a technical, precise set of skills that people have to learn. Whereas on the content editing side, you have to have a feel for books, and it's something more that is taught through apprenticeship than through technical learning. Copy editing is actually a skill you can take a class to learn. So if you want to become an excellent copy editor, I highly recommend taking a class in what it is that a copy editor does. But in general, they're making sure that everything is correct. They're making sure that the manuscript is coded so the person who's laying it out in type, which means putting it into the form that it's going to look like inside of the book, understands which subheadings go where, what size they're supposed to be, what's a bulleted list, what's a numbered list. They are doing all of that work in advance so that whoever's laying it out will understand what it's supposed to look like. They also make sure everything is very precise and that there are no inconsistencies in spellings, in naming, etc. throughout the course of the entire book. And of course, if you're publishing through a traditional house, they're going to make sure that house style is iterated throughout the book. So if the house runs Chicago Manual of Style, for example, all of those conventions are kept up throughout the book. Okay. Then the book goes to typesetting, and what you get back are what are called page proofs. That's where it actually looks like it's going to look inside the book, laid out as you see it when you open a book. And that is where proofreading comes in. Proofreading is the last round of edit. Most traditional publishers put every single book through 3 or 4 full rounds of proofreading. Okay, so if you're self-publishing, keep this in mind. You want to get multiple people to look through the book. Preferably at least one of them is a professional proofreader. You could have friends do it as well. The author should go through it as well. But a professional proofreader has an eye. They are trained. This is their career. This is how they know how to do this. Allow them to do their job for you. All right, so that was a big piece of learning how to become a better editor, is understanding the difference between content or developmental editing and technical editing. Okay, so moving on to my third step. This is where I want you to actually practice the metaview, which is stepping outside of the experience of the reader and looking at the big picture. Developing this skill is probably the most important skill on your journey toward being able to edit your work or someone else's effectively. So I recommend reading books, articles, blogs, watching movies, TV shows, and giving yourself a moment to step back and ask, what has the writer done here? Are the different pieces here all flowing together? How are they creating dramatic tension, for example, in a novel or in a movie? Or how are they conveying the step-by-step process if they're writing some sort of a prescriptive nonfiction book? How are they engaging you as a reader? Stepping back into that meta view is what an editor has to do. If you're in the weeds and you can't actually get out of the experience of being the reader, you're not going to be able to edit either your work or anyone else's effectively. Okay? So practice that when you're taking in other content, whether again it's a blog or even a video like what I'm doing right now. Just notice, what is the person doing? You might notice, for example, that I've created this video in 5 steps. That's easy for you to understand and digest. I'm saying step 1, step 2, step 3. That's one of the things I want you to notice. Read your favorite books again and ask yourself, how did this get designed? How was the writer presenting the material? Where are the subheadings in the work? Why did they choose to put them there? Why did they choose to put an exercise where they put one, or a story where they put that, or a sidebar? This way, you're starting to understand the bigger picture and the craft, rather than just being a consumer of the content. If you want to edit other people's work well, you're going to need to know how to step back and look at the big picture. Okay, step number 4. I want you to repeat this mantra over and over while you're reading your work or reading someone else's work. How is this serving the reader? You need to have yourself in the position of the reader 100% of the time when you're editing. That is one of the biggest mistakes I see new authors make when they're trying to edit their own work. They think, how do I want this to sound? How do I look if I'm writing my own memoir? Gosh, do I look okay? Do I not look okay? Am I painting myself in a positive or a negative light? I don't care about that at the editing phase. I want to know, what is the reader's experience? Does this story serve the reader? Does this piece of information serve the reader? Every single thing you include must serve the reader, and if it doesn't, it needs to go on the chopping room floor, okay? So that is where I want to say, as an editor, you have to learn how to kill your darlings, meaning you have to let go and ask yourself if this serves the reader. If it doesn't serve the reader, you have to let it go. As an editor on the outside, it's easier for me. It's not my baby. It's not my heart on the page. So I can look at it with more objective viewpoint. So that's why I'm saying to you, repeat the mantra. How is this serving the reader? And if you don't have a good answer, you need to let it go. That's the way that you can sort of step back and not be so attached to the work when you're editing your own book. And number 5, last thing I want to say, give your book fresh eyes, meaning don't try to edit your entire book 3 times in 1 week. It's not going to work. I want you to finish writing the book and set it aside for a couple of weeks. Then come back to it and read it all in 1 or 2 days. Give it fresh eyes, the objective eyes that an editor would bring to the work. Now, this is for you, or if you're working on someone else's book, same thing, okay? Those fresh eyes are so very important. If you come with just like, oh, I've been writing this book for 6 months and I just want to get it out, you're never going to really be able to see what needs edits and what doesn't need edits. You have to give yourself space and time. And I highly recommend having someone else edit the book for you. Edit it first yourself, very important. Set it aside, bring it back, look at it again, give yourself developmental feedback, which I'm going to tell you about in just 1 minute because that's the bonus I've got for you. Developmental feedback, and then please give it to a professional book editor. We do this for our job. We know things you couldn't possibly even know to look at because you haven't spent the last 20 years doing it, okay? So those are my 5 tips. Number 1, understand what an editor does. Number 2, learn the difference between content or developmental editing and technical editing. Number 3, practice. Practice keeping a meta view when you're taking in content, reading books, reading articles, blogs, etc. Number 4, repeat the mantra, how is this serving the reader? And then make sure it's a great answer or note that you need to make some changes. And number 5, give it fresh eyes, both yours, by setting it aside for a while and giving it some time before you come back to it, and by getting someone else, preferably someone who edits books for a living, to edit it for and with you. All right, my friends, those are my 5 tips. So happy to share them with you. This is my passion. I am an editor. And now for the bonus. I have offered you my own personal developmental editing checklist below. Just click on the link below and you will get my developmental editing checklist that you can run through anytime you're editing your work or someone else's. It will help you. It will serve you. It has come after 20 years of editing, hard-won wisdom I am now gifting to you because I want you to become better at editing. All right, my friends, good luck to you. Let me know how it goes. I always answer the comments below, so please let me know if this has been helpful to you. And of course, if you are looking for an extra fresh set of eyes, you can find so many at knliterary.com. We are here to serve you. In the meantime, happy editing, happy writing, and best of luck.